I want to welcome everyone to the PD Coordinator webinar today. We're changing the driving of the webinar around a little bit today because we got a lot of different people presenting. So we have the recording on. I've got everybody muted for now. So if you at some point as we go through a slide have any questions, we have our colleague Federica will be monitoring the chat pod today instead of driving the webinar. So if you either want to raise your hand or type your question or concern in the chat pod, Federica will be monitoring that for us so we can make sure that we address any of your questions.
Good afternoon, everybody.
So one of the first things we wanted to talk about are some end-of-year issues. The first one has to do with the PD portal. And as you probably know, there were a number of teachers who waited until the last 24 to 36 hours to get their PD in. And while we sort of pride ourselves in providing some, quick customer service, this sort of, I don't know how to describe it. It was very stressful for members of our team because, there was like 71 teachers who submitted something the last day, June 30th, and Glenda and Krista Mosier and even Emily here on our staff worked up until Friday evening, like 11 o'clock. Trying to help these teachers. So one of the things that we're going to propose for next year is we'll probably, we do have some issues with courses that require that you submit a lesson plan or require that you submit homework. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think what we're going to consider for next year is maybe cutting off certain courses either June 1st or June 15th. And that would give us 2 weeks to grade anything, so this doesn't happen again. So as you're talking to your teachers, if you could just reiterate that, professional development is supposed to be carried out at the beginning of the school year. It's development for you. It's not a punishment that you have to do June 29th at midnight. So anything on that, Glenda, that you would like to add? I know Glenda really went above and beyond.
So when we really want to keep up with this kind of professional development that requires teachers to actually think and implement, so we don't want to back off from doing some of the manual grading. But at the end of the year is a really bad time. This was like how to do lesson planning, which really should be something they do at the beginning
of the year.
So, yeah, so that's helpful. And the other thing is I've gotten a couple of emails from people who said they've had their teachers come back and say, well, I finished the course, but I was waiting for somebody to grade it. No, we have turned things around within usually a couple of hours, and we were letting them know by email that they were missing things, and they did not get back to us until after the deadline. So I am not issuing certificates for people who came back and said they submitted it. They submitted incomplete work, and I'm not going to be able to give them credit for that.
We did, give credit for someone who had to turn something back in again, and then they turned it in at 1:37 a.m. On July 1st instead of midnight June 30th. We went ahead and gave them the credit because they worked hard on it, and clearly they needed the time to get that done within a certain parameter. But we just want to make sure y'all can relay that information to your teachers. And we're going to have a couple of slides further down of some ideas that we have that might help with that. The second, I
got one more thing.
Sure.
As long as we're on that. So beginning with this year, and this is a little bit different, but I've had a couple of people asking me to change their certificates for the PII training.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The PII is not required by the state as an annual training, so it was not set up to give them a new certificate. So if they took it the first time, it gave them their old certificate with the old date. So what I've done is I've deactivated the old PII training. I've basically just copied it to a new training that says PII 2017-2018. So if your local program requires that, that's the one they're going to need to use if they want that date. Otherwise, you can print the transcript details. It'll show you the last time that they took the course and completed it.
Great. Thank you, Glenda. The next item has to do with Teams PD activities, and before Federico shares his information, I threw up a couple of slides here, a couple of screenshots of things that have been happening that I wanted to make sure y'all were aware of. Let me grab my arrow here. So when TCAL enters something into Teams, if it's a portal course, we always start it with the term PD Portal. And when we do that, if it's a PD Portal online course, we start it at the beginning of the year for the begin date and the end of the year as the end date. So for this particular class, Teams Overview Online, you can tell it's ours because it has PD Portal, and the beginning date and the end date are for the whole calendar year. Now, when I was looking at something earlier, I noticed that someone had entered Teams Overview PD Portal for 1 hour for the date of March 23rd. Well, that's not ours. You know, sadly, you guys have an option, or the instructional leads, whoever it is at the local programs, have the drop-down opportunity to pick TCAL. But when you do, just remember to search for PD Portal items that start with PD Portal, and just make sure that the beginning date and the end date for these items are the date we enter it into Teams, if we create it, and then the end date of that school year. I hope that makes sense to folks. Also, when we do Tech Intels, you know, we have a live Tech Intel and we record them. So if you weren't able to participate, you could go in and watch the recording and get a 1 hour credit. Well, we want to make sure that you don't participate live and get a credit and then watch the recording again and get a credit, because that really wouldn't be fair. So what we do with the Tech Intels is similar to what we do above here. Is the beginning date is the date of the live event, and then the end date is the end of the school year. So when someone comes in, even if they've watched the recording, they've watched it somewhere within this time frame. So this is the Tech Intel item that you would put the person under. Does that make sense? Think about those, and I'm going to turn it over to Federico because I think he's got some other things he wanted to add as well. Federico?
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. And I wanted to emphasize a few things having to do with entering staff, entering professional development activities in Teams, particularly at the end of the year where it became a bit of a challenge. We tried, and I think we succeeded for the most part, to enter anything that you requested, conference sessions and other things. Even at the very last minute, we were entering staff in Teams, even the very last day of the fiscal year. First of all, that defeats the purpose of professional development. The truth is that it doesn't serve the purposes of the grant for that particular grant year if you wait for your professional development until the end of the year. Second, what we noticed is that there are many, and this is what Deborah was pointing out, there are many things that are duplicated in the system. And they are duplicated because whoever is doing PD data entry, they are not searching in Teams before entering the activity. And that I can see because we can tell the activities, we can tell which ones were entered first and when were others entered. So Deborah gave you the example of how ours will start with PD Portal Teams. But the fact is that before you add one because you think that it's not there and it should be added, you have to remember, we enter everything that TCAL has to enter. So if we were the ones providing the training, whether directly to you or through your consortia or statewide, we will enter that activity in Teams. You do not need to enter it. But there is a message now on the slide. Please search first. Teams allows you to search by keyword. And the more you learn to search by keywords, the better it is for you to find out exactly what is it that you are looking for. And the reason I mention this is many of the duplicate activities in Teams are the exact same title, but there was one space extra or one hyphen in one entry that in the other entry was a colon. And you thought if you search by the full title and the activity was entered, but even with a slight difference, such a hyphen or a comma or one period, you will not be able to find it. However, if you instead search by a keyword, just Teams or just overview or just the word goals, that will allow you to bring up everything that has already been entered. That way you find the activity that you're looking for and you do not duplicate. If anyone needs assistance figuring out how to do this, please send me an email before you enter duplicate activities. Second and last point that I want to make, this is pertaining the end of the year. Don't wait until the end of the year to ask us to enter conference sessions. And I will give you one specific example. Without telling you what program, I will tell you what happened is that at the very end of June, I was asked to enter certain activities that were COAVE sessions. Now, COAVE was back in April or late March, April, I believe. And by the time that I was asked to enter certain sessions into Teams, the fact is that I was given incomplete information. The title was not complete, the description was not complete, but by the end of June, the National COAVE had already removed the program from their website. Thus, I could not verify, I could not complete the title of the session that was requested of me, and those sessions were not entered. I cannot create things, and because it was the next to the last day of the fiscal year, there was no time to do any sleuthing, any investigating. So the incomplete sessions, when the spreadsheet was submitted to me for data entry, if the spreadsheet was not complete, I was not able to enter them. That is an hour or 2 or 3 that particular teacher or teachers were not able to claim for that year. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is one more, but the last thing that I want to mention is there was a couple of questions early this month in July and having to do with the certificates from the portal. And I want to remind everybody the date on the certificate is the date people completed the training, not the date that the certificate was printed. So there were a few teachers who on the 2nd of July came telling their professional development coordinator that they had completed the training earlier, but they have not printed the certificate until July the 2nd. Well, that is not true, and I don't want to say anyone was lying, but the reality is the portal will print the date the activity was finished. So given that certificate with a date July 2nd, 2017, that activity will count for this fiscal year, not for the one that ended June 30th. If you have any questions on any of these matters, please send me an email, and I will write my email in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Fed.
Yeah,
yes.
It's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I just reiterated that in the chat pod as well. And I'm looking at a private message. Oh, yeah, Federica, did you want to say something about well, let's do that. We'll do the Literacy Texas Conference in our announcements.
Can I jump in real quick? I don't think that people are lying when they're talking about they think they finished the training, but they did not confirm that they've done all the steps. So just please reiterate to them to go back and look at their transcript. If that course is not moved to completed, they are not done.
Very good point, Glenda. And as I said, I did not want to call anybody a liar, but this is the way that the system works. So if they went and printed after the fact and the date is after the fact in July, something was not correct. It doesn't have to be a lie, but probably, as you say, a technical problem, something that they didn't do correctly. It's not intentional.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. Some more just notes and comments about PD, some of the things that we've been experiencing and questions we've gotten from some of the teachers towards the end of the year. We've gotten phone calls. I've personally had some as well from someone that says, I've got this letter, and they, from someone here, and they tell me I need 3 hours of PAL. What am I supposed to take? And, we really can't tell them what to take. I mean, that's a recommendation, or they should receive guidance from their, from their teachers or their instructional leads at their local program levels. So, we often get that question. We make recommendations for local programs based on the data and state priorities. In fact, we're currently working on our statewide continuous improvement plan, and that's based on the individual continuous improvement plans that all of the local programs turned in. So we take those, identify current trends and needs, and then we take that and we produce our statewide continuous improvement plan and what we want to be able to provide and help for the coming year. Now, one of the things that we like to recommend is, to kind of combat this end of the year, June 29th, get all my training in. I did want to mention, I don't know if you had a chance to look in the chat pod, but Thelma Johnson said that she's got, let me see if I can scroll back up and grab that. She says, that was me. She said, we started a local policy that anyone who is hired on or before July 1 has to complete all the requirements by spring break. So that's a great rule to live by. I mean, that gives them plenty of time to get everything in. So one of the things that we were thinking of recommending is to work with the programs and teachers to have a teacher develop their own individual PD plan for the year. We've got a couple of samples that we'll post in the PD Coordinator Community of Practice, but if you could share this with the program directors and other teachers, that it might be helpful for just individual teachers to have their own PD plan. If they have that in place, then they can set deadlines and benchmarks of what they want to accomplish in the first quarter or the second quarter of the program year, so they don't get stuck on June 29th. The majority of our teachers are part-time, as you know, and if they can do just a little bit once a quarter, they can meet their requirements without, stressing out or going crazy. Federico, I'm looking at some comments in the chat pod. And if you do have a form you're using, please share it. Did you want to? I see a comment from Liz.
Yeah, one of the issues I faced with tracking activities was participants neglected to complete evaluation, as with goal-driven learning. Liz, do you want to explain more on that? You face the issue of tracking activities because they did not complete evaluation. If you want to unmute yourself. Liz?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, hello everybody. So one of the things that I really love the fact that I was able to kind of see everyone's activities, whether they were completed or not. And some of the participants thought, well, I finished the modules, why can't I print? And so I would go in and then I would see, well, yes, you finished the modules, but you need to do the evaluation at the end. And they're like, no, but I finished, and they thought it was like a separate component or it was not necessary, and therefore we couldn't access their certificate, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
That it was just a common problem that I saw here.
Right, and that is a common problem, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I didn't understand what you meant at first. But yeah, I mean, the stuff in the portal is a curriculum, and a curriculum, if you remember, is a combination of either handouts, a test, some content of some sort, and an evaluation of that training. So if they just finish the online training, but don't mark the handouts complete or don't complete the evaluation, then it won't show as completed, and their certificate will not generate. So thank you very much about that, Liz. I appreciate that. Let me see. Let's go on. So let's talk about Teams training and some stuff that's going on. Glenda?
Okay, so Teams training. We have some technical assistance modules that Mahalia has been putting together. These are fairly short, usually around 30 minutes or less. They are not for professional development specifically, but they're supposed to be more like just in time. Let me see a video clip. Let me see the PowerPoint again about how do I do certain things. So we've got a couple of them that are almost ready to share with everybody. They're not quite ready, but I do want to share with you. Can you pass me the ball? What it's going to look like, because it does look a little bit differently than our usual. Thank you. Our usual curriculum. So once you're into the PD portal, and you guys slow me down if I go too fast, you go. You can actually. You will be actually able to search for these. Sorry. As soon as they become publicly available, but they're on my transcript, and so the icon for this looks like the New York Library. I don't know why, but the three pillars and the triangle there, that's the library icon. The difference in a library is that it never completes. So you don't get a certificate for it. It stays on your transcript, so you can always go back to it. You're going to click Manage, and here is where it looks a lot like the training details rather than the curriculum player. This doesn't open in that player that makes everything look nice and pretty. The nice thing, though, is that you will be able to search it. So as we're adding more things, if there's a specific thing that you want to review, like how do I do the data entry on sites or how do I do the data entry on providers, you're going to be able to type that in and click search, and it will bring up just that. As the library gets longer and longer, that's going to be very useful for people trying to find exactly what they're trying to do. And you can click Activate, and then you'll have the module come up. You'll be able to launch it with your pop-up blockers turned off, the same as always. And it's going to come up as a course like all the other courses. But it won't complete, it won't generate PD hours. You will have a menu bar on the left. There will be a script, and I'm working on getting the closed captioning here, and I'm also going to add a tab for the PowerPoint, the original PowerPoint, for those who don't want to watch the video, they just want to read through it. That's going to be available also. So that's all I have. That's coming very, very, very soon. Yeah, they were Mahalia. That's Mahalia's voice. I'm just doing the production end of it.
Great. Thank you, Glenda. Let me get the ball back. Okay, Anne Marie, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what's been going on in Tech and Tell? You have a very active community of practice with your Tech and Tell people. So why don't you share some stuff about that?
Okay, so hi everyone. Can you hear me okay, Deb?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to review the new registration procedures for the Tech and Tell webinars, and we talked about this when we had our last PD coordinators meeting. So we're going to go ahead and just review a few things. And yes, the Tech and Tell community of practice is very active, but also the adult education and literacy instruction community of practice is very active. And I see many of the same people in both. And so I think I'm very excited about that. So let's talk about the updates. Now, the change, this will be our 4th week. This change has taken place the last 3 weeks. And I'm happy to report that we've had a few bumps the first week, but people have been able to access it. So how does it change? Teachers now log into the PD portal and they register on the training calendar. Thank you, Deb, for driving. And they register on the training calendar. And then the next part of this is that teachers, once they register, just like a ILT instructor-led face-to-face workshop, they go to their transcript, they find the event, and they launch the Tech and Tell webinar. Just like if you go in and you take one of the online courses. Now, the good news is the teachers are now able to download and save and print their PD certificates themselves. Now, the only caveat to this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a slide or two. The only caveat is that usually not until that following Monday. Sometimes I can get it done earlier, but there is a human on the other side checking attendance. Because there's not a sign-in sheet like the face-to-face classes or the face-to-face workshops, somebody's got to check attendance. And there are, 12 to 15 teachers registering in the PD portal for the Tech and Tells, but I'm getting only half that many that are actually attending. So I'm not sure, if anybody can offer some light on that in the chat pod, that would be good. I think it may be slow because of the summer, but those that are actually accessing the webinars are having no problem launching from their transcript, going into the webinar, and they're able to connect the audio. But just as a reminder, teachers that register still have to attend in order to receive their PD certificate. Their PD certificate will not be available until I check the attendance of who was actually in the webinar. Okay, next slide, Deb.
Did I miss you talking about the computer versus the cell phone?
No, not yet. That's coming. Is there another slide? Is that it?
There's a third bullet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going by my head and not the bullets. Thank you. Teachers, thank you. Okay, so here's the next change. Teachers are encouraged to use the computer versus their cell phone for ease of navigation and participation in activities. Yes, you can still use your cell phone, but the Tech and Tells are getting more and more interactive with a Part 1 and a Part 2. As we move toward fall, there will also, some Tech and Tells will be a requirement that you have to go to the Part 1 in order to go to the Part 2 because there's going to be homework attached. So it's really important that you use a computer or a tablet or some type of device versus your cell phone because the screen, some of the things that you're going to need to see are going to be very difficult to see. Okay, so the next thing that is a change very quickly is to receive full attendance credit. Teachers and everyone logging on needs to have audio for the webinars. And this has been a challenge in the past, and to really stress the rigor of these Tech and Tells, in order to hear the presenter, you've got to have audio. It's not good enough to just be following along on the PowerPoint because you're missing the dialogue and you're missing the activities. So if you are sitting next to someone who has audio, just let us know because I know in the past that people will sit together, and I just need you to tell me that in the chat pod because 99% of the time I'm the host, so just let me know that and who you're sitting next to. And again, that's because we want to ensure that participation and engagement is at a maximum for that hour because we really do cover a lot in an hour, and a lot of it is dependent on the interaction between the presenter and the participants. next slide. And, that's it.
Yeah. So if anybody...
Oh.
No, go ahead, Anne Marie.
I had one thing that you helped me remember, and so did Glenda. When thinking about your PD at the beginning of the year, one of the things that I really want to encourage the PD coordinators to think about with the teachers is to have the teachers start taking and reviewing the clusters of tech and tells that are already available, especially if you have new teachers. I have in the past sent out 2 and 3 webinars together, the Tech and Tell webinars that constitute or meet the literacy requirement. Now, not all Tech and Tells are counted as PAL or Lit, but several of them are considered literacy, and more will be. So as you're planning the PD for the teachers, think about how you can cluster certain Tech and Tells together so it's not just 1 hour of PD that the teachers are getting. It's 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours, especially with some of the national presenters and the quality of the presenters that we've had. So I just wanted to mention that, and that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anne Marie. Good work. One of the things I wanted to share with you this afternoon, also in regards to the PD portal, is, a lot of people would call us and say, how do I know what courses in the portal are lit, literacy instruction, or what courses are principles of adult learning, and, I need to figure this out. And we've even gotten PD coordinators who've asked that question. And so I wanted to go over again how you can search for that by category. And then I'm going to share, I've got something I'm going to share on one of these slides. Oh, in the announcements page, I'm going to share something with you. Hold on. All right. So when you're in the portal and you're looking for a training, if you don't know the name of a training, but you might want to see just what's available under the category Lit or the category PAL, you can either click on Search for Training right down here, or you can put your mouse up here on the top right and just hit Enter. And it brings up this global search box. And if you do it this way, this is the box that pops up, and you click on Training. But look right here. See where it says Refine Search? You can refine a search by category. So if you're looking for maybe online stuff and you're looking just online, you would click the books, and you could click on literacy instruction and click the button, and it's going to bring up everything in the portal that's online that's associated with literacy instruction. So if you have someone that needs some guidance, and they come to you and say, I need, my hours in literacy instruction, or I need my hours in PAL, you can do a refine search. Let me do that again. I'm going to go back to the welcome screen. It's slow today. Come on, Internet. And I'm going to click on Search Training from my icon. And I'm going to click, before I even type the name of something, I'm going to click on Refine Search, and I'm going to say, I want to find stuff that's PAL. That's all related to PAL. Now, I didn't refine my search by the type of training. So in this example, this is showing you the calendar icon, which means what? Face-to-face training. And it's showing you, they shouldn't be showing you that. I need to take that off. All the online classes are supposed to be part of a curriculum, so you shouldn't be able to see that. But these are all the trainings that are in the portal, whether they are face-to-face or whether they are online, that are categorized as PAL or Lit. And I was going to tell you this at the end, but this is a good time to tell you now. We're 99.9% complete with coding all of these in a text box for each event, that now we can set it on the certificate. So and I was going to show you that, but the staging environment where I was testing it, Cornerstone happens to be in maintenance right now, so that website is down. But you'll be able to see underneath the title of the training on a certificate, it will say this training meets this training can count toward and then it'll say literacy instruction or PAL or whatever part of that PD requirement. I know that was something that we've been working on for quite a while. We finally figured it out that we had to make some adjustments in order to get that to work, and we've got it to work. Stephen on our team has worked really hard the last couple of days getting those all identified through the text box mode, and we should have these up for you next week. So when someone starts getting a certificate next week, it should print on the certificate what category it's going to. Let me stop sharing my screen because I want to see if there's any questions in the chat pod.
No, there are no questions at this point, Deborah.
Yeah, I have one privately. When speaking, and when you're sending a message in the chat pod, just remember, change that send to drop down to everyone instead of host presenter. That way everyone will be able to see it. Susan says, when speaking with staff regarding individual PD planning, is there a list available of all PD portal offerings? And that's what I just showed you. So all you have to do is go to the blank global search page. You don't even have to have a PD category if you don't want to limit it to that. And if it's just strictly online that you're looking for, Susan, then you'll just click on the curriculum. This is the book icon for all the curriculum in the portal. There we go. I don't know why it showed up 9. There's more than 9 things. There we go. 160 items in the portal that they can choose from. So hopefully that... I'm sitting here doing this and I forgot to share my screen. Let's try it this way. Now you can see it. Happy Thursday. So define that of...
Deborah,
yes?
There is a question now from Liz saying, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, did you say the certificates will include the PD category it falls under?
Yes.
It's worth mentioning again.
Yes. We're working on that right now. Stephen in our office has worked hard to get all those identified, and now we're like 99.9% ready. We hope to get it finished this week, so it'll be active in that particular capacity starting next week. So we're happy to be able to offer that too. And back to Susan's question, if you wanted to search to see what was available, everything available in the portal, go to the global search. You can just click on curriculum. If you don't want to narrow it down by the type of PD category, don't check any of these, and you'll get all the items. Currently, we have 160 that are in the portal of different types of online curriculum that they're available to choose from. Okay?
And on that particular matter, you have from Susan Sanchez. She says she loves the refined search. Thank you. And also loves the specific certificate designations. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, this is one of those things where it's a great system once you understand how to operate it, and we're learning new things ourselves each day as we find time to answer questions and figure out problems. And I know that Glenda has worked incredibly hard, as the staff in our office who answer our hotline calls and manage the majority of our PD portal at TAMU email accounts. Diana and Mia in our office, and Stella as well. So we're really happy to have them on our team because they've really helped us out, especially in these last couple of weeks. Okay, Glenda, do you want to talk about the graded assignments, anything about that, and what you're doing with those bounced emails?
Oh, I think we already said this, but graded assignments, I am trying to pass people, just to be clear. We're not trying to keep anybody from getting their PD hours. So if it is anywhere close to showing that they took it seriously and they did the project, we're going to get them through. We want it to be impactful for their class. So it does sometimes take some time, but we are aware of it. It never goes away from our front screen if we have forgotten it. And what I should mention also is I am going to be changing the welcome page. When we first got the portal, we had all this information. You want to pull that up, just the welcome page, Deb? We have all that information at the top when we first got started about what the portal is. So that it's easier to view, I'm going to move all of this, starting with the buttons. All that's going to move up, and that information is going to move down so that people can find things more easily. What was the third thing on that list?
Talk about those bounced emails.
Okay, so we're still having problems with people with emails. Please, please, please let folks know if they do a password reset and they don't get a response within probably an hour from the automatic system, to either send an email to pdportal@tamu.edu or call the office. That email has gone somewhere, and that's why they're not getting it. It's somewhere else. They should be adding pdportal@tamu.edu to their contacts so that it doesn't go to spam or get automatically deleted also. Bounced emails, once we send out a featured notification on one of the Connect communities, we sometimes can get 70 bounced emails. Those people are being inactivated with a note next to their name that says verify email. It is not really difficult for us if somebody changes their email for us to change their username and their email. They just need to let us know. It's not really a big deal. That's a whole lot better than trying to create a new account that we're going to reject, and then they're going to be upset because we rejected their account. So I think that's all I have to say about that, unless you have questions or you've had concerns from the field that I haven't heard yet.
Well, I want to mention one thing, and then stay on the line, Glenda, because you can help with the next slide. Also, if you know of teachers that are no longer with your organization, remember that we do have a limited number of seats in the PD portal, so please send an email to Peggy Sue Hyman with the name of that teacher that is no longer with you so we can deactivate their account. We would appreciate that very much. Okay, Glenda, you want to talk about the how-to videos?
Okay, so as you know, one of the buttons on that front page that you were just looking at is the how-to videos. And those are very short. They're 30 seconds to about 2 minutes. And, you know, people can find a lot of their answers there. How to create an account, how to search for a training. They can actually go to that playlist on YouTube without even going through the portal if you save that playlist link and send it out to your folks. Search for a training, how to use the curriculum player. I get a lot of people who don't understand that left side is a menu. And so if there's various things, if you're still not showing complete, there's something in that menu that you haven't completed. Taking an assessment, I've had people who didn't understand that they have to first save their answers and then submit them. So they've had some trouble with the test, not knowing what to do with that. Still have people asking about certificates. Not having so many people asking about the ILT registrations right now. So the webinar sessions, now that we're doing webinars online through the portal, that's how to register for those and how to join there. So all of those are available. If you have people who are asking you questions on a regular basis and you think it would be a good how-to video, please let me know. My next one will probably be how to access the library for the team's library information.
Great. Thank you, Glenda. Let's see. So, you know, we have had some calls from some of you or emails of folks who don't have the digital literacy skills that they'd like to, and did we have any recommendations on where they could go to kind of enhance those skills? And you know, we like to recommend GCF Learn Free because they've got some free online stuff, just basic computer skills. There's stuff on internet basics. What is the internet? You know, just how to search for things on the internet and what it's all about. It also has, like GCF Learn Free also has tutorials on how to do Word and PowerPoint and Excel. And then there's also not just computer literacy, but there's also topic-related categories on there as well. Financial literacy, for example, managing money, which is an important skill that our adult students need to make sure they have. So just if you have anybody that's looking for some basic computer skills, they want to upskill their own stuff, we would recommend GCF Learn Free. It's a great website and it's free. Federico, did you want to talk about the assessment TOTs before we do our announcements?
Yes, thank you, Deborah. I want to remind everybody that we will have 2 TOTs for assessment, one for the TAFE Class E coming up July 24th and 25th in Dallas. There is plenty of space available. Now, if you want your teachers or one of your teachers to participate, you do need to assign that particular staff to assign the course to your staff so that they can register. They will not be able to see the registration link unless you, as a PD coordinator or the manager, can assign the course to the teacher. Okay. The second one is the TAFE TOT, the Texas style for the paper-based test. The training is coming in August in Austin. They are both in the system, so if you're interested in either of them, just go to the portal, look in the calendar for these particular events, click on them, and you should see a blue button that says Assign. When you click on that, you will see the list of your staff. Select the staff that you want to register and submit, and then those people will be able to register to participate. It's 12 hours. They are required to be there both days, so July 24th and 25th. And please remember, this is a train of trainers. The training is not meant for the teacher to know how to administer the test, but rather for your program to have somebody able and certified to train other test administrators. This is for trainers. Okay? If you have any questions, send me an email. Thank you.
Thanks, Federico. Before you move on to I can do the announcements. Before you move on, there is a message from Anne-Marie in the chat pod. When we were talking about digital literacy, Anne-Marie has the folks from the State Library System of Texas. They've developed this library toolkit, a digital literacy toolkit, and they're doing the Tech and Tell. Well, they did it already, I guess, looking at her. Oh, no, it's August the 10th and 11th, sorry. So make a mental note of that or jot that down on a sticky note, August 10th and 11th. The folks from the State Library are going to do an overview of the digital literacy toolkit that they've created. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a really dynamic document with lots of good resources and activities that'll be perfect for helping someone become more digitally literate. Okay, let's move on to announcements. So I'm happy to announce that the goal-driven attunement is now available for the 2017-2018 year. One of the things I want to mention, and this is happening a lot, is the attunement is simply a test. It has, I want to say 20 questions. I don't remember, to be honest with you, but it's just a test with questions. But you can't, go to a question and leave it like that for 10 or 15 minutes because it's going to time out. And then when it times out, it marks everything as if you had submitted the entire thing, and you have teachers who are failing it. And we get all these emails that say, I didn't have time to complete it, I was right in the middle, and it timed out and it failed me. Can you please reinitiate it? You can't take it more than once. So just 2 things. Make sure that when they do the attunement, and we've made a couple of notes, make sure when they do the attunement, they know they need to complete it in a timely fashion within 1 or 2 minutes per question. Number 1. Number 2, if they take it all the way through and they don't pass it with a score of 80%, they have to take the 3-hour course again. Okay? So the only way that we can register someone is if they let it time out. We can see in the details whether or not they just didn't pass it. We can see that it only credited for 1 minute and then failed everybody. So we can do that. But we're encouraging you to share this with your teachers. When you start the test, stay with it, answer it in a timely fashion. If they don't answer it with an 80% passing rate, they have to take the 3-hour course. TWC does not permit us to give them another chance to do the attunement. I hope that makes sense. The second and third bullets we've already talked about, the TOTs and the certificates. The content standards meeting, Beth wanted me to mention that it is August 3rd and 4th. And it's in Austin, I believe. And there's a pre-conference webinar July 28th at 2 p.m. So if you have any questions about the content standards meeting, please email Beth directly. Beth, why don't you put your email address? I'm sure everybody has it, but go ahead and put it in the chat pod. Content standards meeting August 3rd and 4th, which is after Literacy Texas. And speaking of Literacy Texas, Federico, do you want to give that update for Dale?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure what Dale wanted to share, but the conference is around the corner. There is still time to register. And we have a very, very strong program at the Literacy Texas Conference, once again in San Marcos at the embassy. And we will have a number of extended workshops, intense workshops on the third day, on Wednesday. These are 3-hour workshops that you will be able to take 2 during the day. It was 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. And the registration for the extended workshops or intensive workshops is separate than the registration for the conference. Dale, if you're there, is there something that you would like to say? I did not notice if you posted something in the chat box. Dale?
Yes, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to let them know registration is still open. The Embassy Suites, I know is booked, but if you go to the Literacy Texas website, conference link is right on the home page. There are some additional hotels listed there that are very close to the conference area, and I will say the conference committee has done an excellent job. It is going to be a fantastic conference. A lot of really good workshops. So I just encourage everybody to register and come to the conference.
And besides, I want to mention, because I am particularly excited about this, besides the workshops on Sunday evening and then Monday evening, there are storytelling activities for teachers to be able to get together and share stories and tell stories about teaching, about literacy. And I was just yesterday participating in a national workshop in which teacher storytelling was one of the big topics. So if you are going to be there ready for the conference on Sunday afternoon, this is about 5 p.m. in the Sunday evening, do make a point of participating in that activity. I think it's going to be really exciting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That's it for us, guys. Do y'all have any questions or need anything clarified that we can do before we set you free today? I'm looking at the chat pod. Yeah, Thelma is asking some questions about the content standards. Yeah, recording. Anybody have any other questions? It was a lot of information to cover today, and again, we're recording it, and we'll place it, the links in the PD Communities of Practice, along with those example PD plans. And again, even Beth mentioned, if you happen to have an individual professional development plan that you're already using, if you'll share that in the community of practice under our PD coordinators community of practice, we'd certainly appreciate that. Okay, everybody. Well, if there aren't any other comments or questions, we thank you very much and hope that you have a good rest of your day and have a good weekend coming up. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.